So here we come to my review and breakdown. This video is not going to have any book spoilers in it. I will do a full book spoilers review and breakdown as well, but this video is going to be completely safe for anyone who hasn't read the books but has seen episode 1. You are good to go, so let's go.
Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, bitch. Let's be nerdy, let's be nerdy, bitch.
If you watched my immediate reaction video, you know that I was kind of emotional after the first episode. Just seeing these characters that I've known for more than half my life, walking around and talking and having bodies and faces, it was a lot. I had trouble processing it, to be honest. But having watched it a few times since then, here are my thoughts. The most important thing in any show for me is the acting. And in this, The Wheel of Time is knocking it out of the park. All of the main cast they're nailing their roles. The characters feel lived in and real. The set design, I don't even know how, I had seen clips before the show aired. We'd seen the trailer and clips, but damn, it is insane how good everything looks. The monsters and the effects were amazing. Like I was hiding behind my hands level of amazing. I do not handle gore well. And then of course there's this story. I said in my immediate reaction that I had issues with the pacing, and those issues are still there, but weirdly it felt much less pronounced to me on a rewatch. I'm not sure why that is. I just know that when I was watching it the second time, I had the thought that the pacing isn't as choppy as I thought. It's still a bit wonky. There are moments that feel rushed and moments that feel stuck. But as I said in that initial reaction, I do think that's a result of the fact that it's a pilot, and a pilot has to do, the way I see it, I'm not a TV person or expert or anything, but a pilot has to do two sort of opposite things. It has to establish characters and places and things, and then they also have to get things moving. Those are two opposite things, and so I think that sort of push-pull is the reason behind the pacing issues that not just or Wheel of Time, I should say. I call Wheel of Time Watt in my head. But not just Wheel of Time has. A lot of pilots have this issue. The other issue I had was with the fridging. Layla, Perrin's wife. I am just not a fan of this as a storyline. I said I'm not going to go into book spoilers here, and I'm not. But I do not think that this was necessary for his character arc. And I don't like this as a trope. I find it lazy, and it's leading into misogynistic storytelling where women are used as just sort of props to hold up male characters. Now, I know that there are obviously plenty of other women with agency and character to counteract this, but it doesn't take away the fridgy scent, the fridgy flavor of this plot point. It doesn't ruin the show for me, I have to say, partially because I was kind of ready for it. Leaks before the show had, come out, had me guessing that this was what was going to happen, and so I was prepared. I think if I hadn't been prepared, it might be a bit of a bigger deal for me. I'm also just going to mention this here. There's also the fact that Perrin is being played by a black man. A black man who killed a white woman in a moment of rage. In the Wheel of Time world, the race of the characters doesn't matter at all, but there is a larger real world narrative to consider, and I couldn't help but notice this. It just is, there's an issue there. That's not to say that the acting or the writing of this was not done well. It was heart-wrenching, and Marcus Rutherford, the actor who's playing Perrin, did amazing work. I can fully understand why he, as an actor, would love this, because it's just super meaty for him to work with. It's just a trope that I am not a fan of, and I don't think was necessary. Overall, though, I did really enjoy this episode, and I didn't think it was perfect, but I really, really liked it. Oddly enough, My favorite parts of it were the first 20 minutes before the Trolloc attack. I loved watching the Two Rivers just daily life parts. Um, yeah, the Trolloc attack, like the Winter Night, was amazing and it was really, really well done. But the part that I wanted to live in, like I wanted to watch more of, was the Two Rivers just daily life. I will give this episode, just figuring out how to do these review things. I'm going to give this episode a 7 out of 10, with pacing and fridging being the main things that are bringing it down for me. But okay, let's move on to the breakdown. We open on a scene in which Moraine says some very important things about men, the Dark One, arrogance, and this is all very interesting, but the most important part of this scene is she's wearing suspenders. Suspenders. It is very exciting and a bit of a problem for me because while I love and adore all of these characters, I've never really been attracted to any of them, but suspenders on Rosamund Pike, I don't know how to fight that. Anyway, she tells how men broke the world, one in particular who was named the Dragon, and that the dragon has been reborn, and they have to find him, or her, because of, reincarnation. We then see a bunch of women in red, who are revealed to be magic. I'll let you know now. They're called Aes Sedai, and they're chasing down two men. They corner the two men with their magic, and it's revealed that it actually isn't two men, it's one. But he's gone mad, and is hallucinating the second man. The magic ladies tell the man that he shouldn't use the magic because when men touch the magic, they make it dirty, and then they do something to him. We see that Moraine and Lan were watching, or at least I think that's what's implied here, and they declare that this guy isn't the guy that they're looking for, and so they gotta go. Moraine says she's heard a rumor of something called Taviran in a place called the Two Rivers, so off they go. When they get to the Two Rivers, we see the women participating in some sort of coming-of-age ceremony, which involves the braiding of hair, lovely comforting speeches, and the yeeting off of cliffs. The yeeter in this scenario is Nynaeve, who is the wisdom of the Two Rivers, and the yeetee in this scenario is Egwene. Her yeeting lands her in the river, and she floats downstream and emerges safely. In the Two Rivers, we see a happy little town and tavern where people are drinking and laughing uproariously. We see three boys, Perrin, Mat, and Rand, and a young woman named Danya sitting around a table. Mat gambles away some of his money, losing to Danya, and then he tries to get Perrin and Rand to lend him some, but they refuse. He looks over at Danya, eyes her jewelry, and then goes over to talk to her. The tavern erupts in applause as Egwene enters, having been welcomed into womanhood. The celebrations continue into the night when a mysterious stranger enters. The mysterious stranger turns out to be Lan, followed by Moraine. They get rooms for the night, which freaks everyone out because they know that Moraine is an Aes Sedai, a magic lady, and that is scary. Perrin and Rand speculate as to why there's an Aes Sedai here, and Nynaeve goes over and says something to Perrin about his wife, Layla. Yeah, Perrin's married, and he goes to leave to check on her, I guess. His wife is at the forge, furiously forging on her own, and Perrin tries to talk to her, telling her that he loves her, and she pulls a Han Solo and says, I know, and then leans into him, but there's plainly some tension here. Outside, Mat sees his mother, drunk out of her mind, watching his father flirt with a woman out in public. She is understandably upset, but also drunk and not making good choices, and Mat takes her home and puts her in bed, and she tells him that he's going to grow up to be just like his dad. So, this is some top-shelf parenting. In the tavern, they are cleaning up after the night, and they're talking about, wondering why there's an Aes Sedai here. They leave Egwene and Rand to clean up the dishes, and they engage in some light flirting involving a pocket berry, and then they get down to business. Upstairs, Moraine and Lan have a completely platonic naked hot tub together. And I'm not kidding. I'm serious. This is not sarcasm. I'm delighted by the contrast between the inherent sexiness in these two incredibly attractive people naked in steamy water, and the fact that there is no sexy time anywhere near here. Okay, well, I suppose there is. It's near here. It's just downstairs. I also very much want to know what is floating in the water. Is it just bits of wood? Anyway, Lan asks which one of them Moraine thinks it is. And as he asks this, we cut to Egwene in the common room of the inn, post-coitus. She tells Rand that Nynaeve has asked her to become her apprentice and said that Nynaeve can do something called, or Egwene can do something called listening to the wind. This seems to bother Rand because apparently wisdoms don't get married and they don't have kids. The next day we see a peddler named Padan Fain come into town, and the children greet him with delight. Mat goes over to try and barter using the jewelry that he seems to have pilfered off of Danya. Padan Fain negotiates the price down, exchanging the jewelry for some paper lanterns for the upcoming Beltane festival. Moraine and Lan wander the village. Moraine is asking Lan if he thinks that one of the quote-unquote eyeless is here. Lan doesn't answer, but she seems to understand his response anyway. Egwene finds Rand sitting by himself on a mountainside. She tells him that she's going to become the Wisdom's apprentice, and he says he already knows, and he hugs her. We see the Wisdom, Nynaeve, and she is scrubbing a cave, and Moraine comes in behind her and begins to try subtly asking Nynaeve about her age. She manages to push the right buttons and gets Nynaeve to reveal that she's 26 years old. Nynaeve also tells a story about how the previous Wisdom, the one who raised her, could also listen to the wind and travel to something called the Tower, where it seems that that's where Moraine is from. But she tried to become an Aes Sedai, but was rejected for being too poor. Seems to be some residual resentment from this left over. Rand and his dad go back home to light their lanterns for Rand's dead mom. Lighting lanterns for dead relatives seems to be a big part of this ceremony, this holiday. People in town are lighting lanterns and setting them on the river, and the people seem to be genuinely moved and grieving in this ceremony, which I find such a lovely contrast to the celebration they begin to immediately have, like right after this. This is a really, really cool holiday. It's a really cool tradition, and I want it. I want this tradition. Minus the next part. The next part being monsters, to be clear. I do not want the monster attack. I want the tradition. I do not want the monsters, because the monster attack is freaking brutal. It is graphic and violent, and there are visible intestines, and I am not a fan of intestines being visible in the midst of this. Padan Fain, the peddler, looks on and then calmly puts down his cup and walks away. So that's pretty sus. Mat gets his baby sisters to safety out in the woods, and then back at Rand's farm, a Trolloc breaks in, and Tam manages to fight off the Trolloc with a very, very cool sword, but gets wounded in the process. Then Moraine, the Aes Sedai, shows up and starts, like, dismembering and incinerating Trollocs with more visible intestines, and Lan is slicing them to bits all around her, and it's amazing, and it's synchronized, and it's gross, and you need to watch it. I watched it through, like, interlaced fingers, but it is awesome. And then a Trolloc grabs Nynaeve by her braid and drags her away, and, excuse me, sir, that is not what the braid is for. Perrin and Layla try to fight off a couple of Trollocs in their home, and I think they both actually kill a Trolloc, but Perrin also catches Layla with a backswing, and so she's dead, and that kind of sucks. Back to the Aes Sedai doing her Aes Sedai best, and it is incredible, but then a Trolloc catches her in the shoulder with a knife, but it doesn't take her out, and so she does some, pretty incredible power stuff, using rocks from the inn to take out the Trollocs, and it is awesome, but the inn is gone now, like Moraine destroyed the Winespring Inn. In the morning, Rand shows up into town and sees all of the destruction. He looks for Nynaeve to heal his dad, but of course, there was the whole Trolloc braid incident, and I'm quite indignant about, but there is an Aes Sedai, and she will do in a pinch. Actually, she will do quite well. She heals Tam completely. No questions asked. In response to this, Rand blames her for the Trollocs, or Niraz, basically, saying that they came at the same time she did. So, that's one way of saying thank you for healing my dad. Not what I'd have gone with. Moraine explains that the Trollocs are here for the same reason that she is, and she looks around at Rand, Mat, Egwene, and Perrin, and says that they're here for the four of them. She explains that there was a prophecy 20 years ago that the dragon, from the first scene, the dragon, was reborn, and it's one of them. As she's explaining this, they see hundreds of Trollocs descending down the mountain, and Moraine explains that they all need to go now. If they stay in town, the Trollocs will attack the town again, so they need to leave, and the Trollocs will follow them. They need to get to the White Tower and to other Aes Sedai. So they head out of town, and indeed, the Trollocs do follow them. So yeah, that is a, breakdown summary of episode 1, completely book spoiler free. As I said, I really did enjoy this episode, minus my few problems with it. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below, or you can come join my Discord and you can talk it out there. I will link to that as well in the description below. And if you like my content and want to support me, you can check out my Patreon. My patrons, I love you guys so much. My patrons also are getting access to basically a watch along with me, where I recorded myself watching the episode and just uploaded that for them, so they can, if you can sync up and watch along with me. I mostly am just watching, but there are occasional outbursts of something. But if you want that access to that, you can, as I said, check out my Patreon. And with that, I will end this here. So, yeah, like, subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.